What up, though? And welcome to 922GTV, the only podcast out here that's pro Second Amendment, pro guns, all from the mindset or the perspective of a convicted felon. Me, your host, Inspiretheblocc. And thank y'all once again for tapping in with your boy continuously. But I would be remiss if I don't ask y'all to please subscribe, like, comment, and share 922GTV. Because this is, like I said, this is one of those podcasts where we pro Second Amendment. And I'm somebody, according to society, who should not ever in life be in possession of a firearm because of my felony conviction. And once again, I love having these conversations because in America here, we understand that the Second Amendment is an essential right, especially for those who consider themselves to be pro-life, right? That's the whole art, and that is the whole mindset behind the Second Amendment. It's to protect life, not only from individuals, but from a historical standpoint. The founding fathers gifted the citizens of this great country this right in case the government decides it wants to turn on the people, and the people have the right to protect themselves from a government that is supposed to be in line with the people first and not the other way around. So the founders of this country understood the importance of the Second Amendment. And what I'll do, not today, because it's something else I want to get off my chest regarding this conversation, but in the very near future, I am going to give y'all a history lesson on the Second Amendment. And what I mean by y'all, I'm talking about all the uneducated, all of the people that oppose the Second Amendment because they don't truly understand the history or the context in which the Second Amendment exists. Like I said, in a nutshell, that you're supposed to have the opportunity, if your government, which they have been for a long time, decides to turn into tyrants or oppressors, then you have the power from the people of the state to actually oppose and take on the federal government be needed in the event that that's a decision that the people have to make. And so for me, I understand that idea, number one. And then number two, I understand the fact that I have a right to protect my life. This is why the guns were created, to defend, to protect. And so it's amazing to me that in America, we believe that if somehow we restrict people, classes of people, from their Second Amendment right, then we can somehow end gun violence in America. This is the fallacy or the dream among a lot of, especially liberal and progressive voters here in America. They believe that if you have enough legislation, that if you have enough restrictions in America, then the right people will only have guns, the wrong people will never have access them, and then we'll live in a gun-free society, or a gun-free violent society, and we all can live in peace. And the problem with that is this here. Just this past Friday, if I'm not mistaken, let me be totally accurate. Today is Monday the 17th that you're hearing this, August 17th, 2026. So in my home state of Flint, Michigan, well, not in Flint, Michigan, excuse me, in my home state of Michigan, I think it was like a couple hours north of where I'm from, but this occurred on the 15th of August of 2026, where we had a mass shooting. If I'm not mistaken, four people were killed. Let me take that back. 5 people were killed, and 1 was wounded. And so when I saw this come across my timeline this past Friday, I began to think on the Second Amendment. I began to think on the people that believe that we need more regulation to guns. I began to think on the people that believe we need more tougher laws on the books to prevent mass shootings. And when I saw this story, I wondered, how would this have been prevented? Right? What laws, what regulations, What can Congress do on a federal level? What can state and local governments do to where we can curb gun violence here in America? And how could this tragedy not happen in Michigan or across the country as we see it continuously, mass shootings? What laws can we put on the books to prevent this kind of stuff from happening? And before I go any further, I would be remiss if I don't send my condolences to all the families and people that's connected with this tragedy that happened this past Friday in my home state of Michigan. Once again, I send my prayers and my thoughts and my condolences to all those that were affected by it. I pray that the hand of God touches y'all and that the healing process, whenever it begins, that it does begin. I know right now it's very tragic because you just lost your loved ones to senseless gun violence from some nut with a gun who decides he just was going to wake up today for whatever reason and decide he's going to kill some people. Because in this same incident, the alleged shooter was also found deceased by authorities. So there is never any answers unless they continue the investigation. But there, at the beginning of it, no one really knows. I don't know why he decided to do this or the true reason why he decided to go on this shooting spree. But once again, when this happened, I just started thinking, like, what laws can we create that will prevent this kind of stuff from happening? Because the people in America want to know. Don't nobody want to live in fear. I understand that. No one has to. You should want to be able to go outside and walk freely in your neighborhood without some nut deciding he's gonna wake up this day and it's time for him to commit mass murder. And just so happen, during this trajectory or this intersection of life, you run across this guy and unfortunately, boom, you're one of his victims. And so I understand that. No one wants to live like that. I don't want to live like that. I want my daughter to be able to go to the playground and play and not worry about some gang banging niggas coming by and shooting, killing innocent people with the whole intent of riding down on a rival gang. So I understand the sentiment in the country. I understand the concern in the country when it comes to gun violence. But one thing as a people that we really, really got to understand, and it's this here, and it's not hard, it's not complex. It's that you can't regulate mindset. You can't regulate heart, and you can't regulate intentions. Because once again, and this is my belief, personal belief, there is not a law on the books that's going to prevent someone from, if they decide that day to wake up and just start killing. The only way to get rid of gun violence in America is to simply get rid of all guns, even police. I know that's hard for a lot of y'all to comprehend. No, with the police, they should have guns to protect us or to make sure that they be able to take down the right people at the wrong people at the right time. Well, if police only have guns, right, then more than likely a regular person is eventually going to steal one from them. It does happen. You know that, right? Police officers, trust me, have left their guns in a car. Somebody broke in their car and stole their gun. They probably reported it stolen and somebody eventually got caught with it. But it does happen. And it's going to happen. This is the human nature. Human nature figures out ways to do stuff criminally. And sometimes good people get caught up in criminal patterns of other people. And so if we take every gun out of America, including the police officers, that's how we will reduce gun violence in America. But here's the flip side of that. If you go look over there, I believe it's Great Britain. They don't have guns. But they still have violence. They have a lot of violence. It may not be to the magnitude over here in America, in the States, but they do have violence. I watched a video not too long ago where a guy was an Uber driver and like 3 guys broke the windows of the car that he was riding in the back seat, and they begin to just stab him. See, over there where they don't have guns at, they have stabbings. That's the alternative. If you don't have a gun to shoot somebody with, they gonna stab you. So this whole ideal of this notion that we will reduce violence if we get rid of guns is asinine. It's straight silly. But this is what I do believe. I believe in prosecuting the right people who shouldn't be in possession of firearms. Now, what do you mean by that? Like, you hold on, you contradicting yourself, Inspiretheblocc. 1 minute you say you're for people having guns, and then the next minute you say you're not for the wrong people having guns. Well, this is what I mean by the wrong people having guns, okay? First and foremost, I do believe in rules and regulations and also laws. I believe where there's no order, there's chaos. And so laws prevent the chaos because they institute the order. Now, what I don't believe is this here. I don't believe, when they talk about the wrong people with guns, I don't believe that simply just because you have a felony conviction on your record, that you should be prevented from for the rest of your life from owning or possessing a firearm. Because history shows that don't prevent shit. That don't stop nothing. And as much as y'all stupid people out there in society wants to believe that this does, no the fuck it don't. Right now, as you're listening to this podcast, right now as I'm recording this podcast, somebody's being killed with a gun, somebody's being arrested with a gun, somebody's purchasing a new gun. There's a lot of shit going on with guns at this very moment in real time. And so what I mean by the wrong people not having a gun in their possession is this here. I'm going to lay it out. Now, I will say this here. If you're on any type of form of probation or parole, of course, come on now. You shouldn't have a gun at that moment because you're still trying to prove to society that you rightfully belong in society. So if you're going through a process on requalifying to be back in society, then nah, I think you have to prove yourself. And that's fine with me. That is fair. I don't think that nothing is wrong with that. If you go to prison, you get out, you have to prove to society that you're back part of the society because you violated the trust. You violated the rules for whatever reason it was. If they let you out, if they feel like you can come back into society and at some point function like normal people, then yeah, after that is over with, of course you should be able to have your rights reserved. Rights given back to you, your gun rights. But in the process of being on probation or parole, I agree that is something that you give up at that moment, and it can cause dire consequences if you're in possession of a firearm while you're on probation or parole. But once you're off probation or parole, and this is the part that I think people don't really fucking comprehend because we just like to be a stupid fucking society. Excuse my language, but I get kind of, amped up about this when I start thinking about these conversations because people really don't use a lot of thought process. People function off impulse of what they feel. So if a Department of Corrections, whether it's on a federal level or a state level, returns somebody back to society after they paid their debt by giving up their life for a substantial amount of time to incarceration, once that is over and you've proven you're back normal or that you can function normally in society with everybody else, then you should no longer ever be restricted of that right. I don't care if you went to prison for murder, because even if you go to prison for murder, right, the circumstances of that murder case should have some weight on you when you return from society on returning your gun rights. For example, it's people that didn't kill people that's walking around right now who's been let out of prison. If they killed somebody and a judge sentenced them to a certain amount of time, not life without parole, but sentenced them to a certain amount of time, they do that time They get out. That means society, the parole board of that Department of Corrections, once again, if it's federal or state, felt like this person can come back to society and manage with everybody else. If they don't believe that they can, they keep them in prison. Now I know people love to talk about the recidivism rates. Come on now, like that's a conversation that's easily refuted, because people like to say, well, the average prisoner or the average convict recidivate at a high rate. That is correct. But what people don't talk about is the circumstances that causes this to happen. Don't get it twisted. A lot of it is on the individual. They have to come out here and do what they know they're supposed to do. You might be faced with some trials and tribulations, but you can't fold to them like I have. And I've been out going on 14 years. And I've been faced with some shit. And what I mean by faced with some shit, I've been denied housing. How you expect me to function normal in society where you can deny me a place to live, even though I can afford to stay there? But because I'm a convicted felon, you can deny me. How am I supposed to function normal in society when no one wants to give me a place to live, even though I can afford it? Number two, the job market. How do people expect convicted felons to function in society when in the job market you're not hireable, or people don't want to hire you because you have a felony conviction? Now, we have to understand that this, especially the job market situation, that plays a lot of part into people going back to prison or the recidivism rates. Because how can you live if no one wants to hire you? How can you survive in a society where no one wants to pay you for labor because you just simply have a felony conviction on your record? So we can't separate these things as if they don't play a part in people going back to prison. People not just going back because they got a lover up in there. People not just going back because that's the place where they want to be. No, nobody, no matter what y'all want to believe, on average, I'm going to use a high number. 98% of the people that is in prison don't want to be in prison. I would say at 2%, that's them guys that have been there for like 50, 60, 70 years. They don't know nothing else. That's their life. They're conditioned to understand that. And the real world doesn't make sense to them anymore. They're used to this routine. They're used to being told what to do and what not to do, what they can and what they can't do. They are comfortable with having their freedom restricted because they've been living it for so long. And once again, that's not even 2%, I don't believe. I think it's less than 2%. But the overwhelming majority of people don't want to be in prison. It's not a happy place. It's not a fun place. So you can miss me with all that thinking that people want to be in prison. They automatically come out here just so they can go back. That's not true. So people want to come out here and they want to do right. They want to live right. They want to do the best that they can. But society has these obstacles till they make this life difficult. And then you have people like you that wants to sit back and judge us and say, well, you know what, they can't get life right. They criminals. They should never be out. No, weigh the whole circumstances, the totality of the circumstances. When people who have been formerly incarcerated return to society, understand that they face, immeasurable odds, immeasurable pressures. When simply society don't even want to give the one up so that they can succeed. So this notion, once again, we're going to put that shit to bed. People don't want to just commit crimes and go back to prison. The circumstances allows that to happen. I'm not justifying it. Don't take that. However, what I am saying is this here. We have to weigh everything. People just don't want to go back to prison. It's not fun. That's why on average, they run. It ain't run because they trying to avoid the consequences. No, they run because no one wants to live in prison, as if that's normal. Okay, people, can we agree on that? If you don't believe me, more than likely you know somebody that's been incarcerated, so talk to them. They will definitely tell you, okay? If they don't want to be in prison, that shit ain't cool. That shit ain't fun. Who the hell want to do that? So, with that bow on that one, let's get back to the conversation at hand when they're talking about guns. People that has been formerly incarcerated. So there's not this germ in you there's not this bug in you that if you go to prison or you get convicted of a felony, that you're automatically violent. You're automatically going to do something in this society eventually because you're a felon. And because of that belief that we have in society, we're going to restrict you of your gun rights. And when we do that, if you get caught with one, oh, wait, you in a lot of trouble. So this is the shit that we got to really stop because it's setting up for failure. Now, if you've been following me, if you've been listening to me, then you already know I have a solution to this problem. And the solution to the problem, in my belief, and it's just this simple. It's very, very simple. Now, if we're going to have some kind of regulations regarding guns, then my belief, I think that the regulation of guns should be no different than that of owning a car. I can hear tops being blowed off right now. I can hear all the stupid people. I can hear all y'all right now talking bad about me. What the fuck does he mean? Guns should be regulated exactly like cars. Yeah, go back to it. I do. The same method and procedures that you have to go through, I believe, to get a car should be the same as that as a gun. For one, in order to drive a car, you must first, one, have to be of legal age. And then number two, you have to be licensed to drive a car. Now in America, 16 is the age to drive a car. It's the age that you can get a driver license and that you can drive a car. With me, I agree with the government that you should be 21 because I believe that with guns comes a lot of responsibility. You have to really be a responsible person. You have to understand the consequences, that the damage that this gun can cause if you're not properly educated about guns and the ideal of possessing them. Like there has to be some kind of education with it. And I believe the older that you are, the more mature you are, and that your brain begins to unlock on an adult level, and you begin to shed that juvenile way of thinking. So 21 for me is the standard age that I believe you can go inside a gun store or a pawn shop and legally purchase a gun. I agree with 18, you can be gifted one, but anything under than that, no, you still have to wait. So just like driving a car, you first have to be of legal age. For me, to own a firearm, you have to be 21. Just like owning in order to drive a car, you have to have a license. I believe that in America, especially for those that have been convicted of a felony, you have to get a gun license. I think that's fair. That's like I say, that's the number one step. I believe in the regulations that I believe that we can reduce gun arrests. We can reduce violating the Second Amendment right of American citizens is if one, you have age, 21. Number two, you have to obtain a license. I know here in the South, you don't need a permit or anything like that to own a firearm. But I'm talking about, let's just say for convicted felons only. People, if you've been convicted of a felony, then in order to own a firearm, you have to get a license. Okay? So now, boom, we have age, 21, and you have to have a gun license to own a gun if you're a convicted felon. The next step is this here. Once you verify that you're of age and you get your permit or your gun license, number 3, you can't be gifted a gun unless you go register it with the ATM. And I believe that every gun that is owned legally by a convicted felon or somebody with a felony conviction, then your gun has to be registered with your serial number of that gun. It has to be registered with your local ATF. So now, just like a car is registered with the state with a license plate, okay, and a VIN number. The serial number of the gun that the former felon purchased, he has to take that gun, that serial number, and register it with the ATF. So now there's no ghost gun out there. There's no mystery gun out there. This person has a license, he's of age, and it's registered with the local ATF of your county. So now the authorities know who owns this gun. So boom, hypothetically, a hypothetical scenario, I'm a felon, I got a gun, I got my license, and I get pulled over. Police ask if there's a gun in the car. I say yes, I provide my driver license, my gun license, and I give the serial number of the firearm that I have currently on me in the vehicle. Police goes run my driver license, my gun license registration number, and also the serial number of the gun to make sure that it's clean. Yeah. This is another idea. Like I said, I'm going to keep giving you layers of this. So boom, serial number registered, okay? In order to drive a car, guess what you got to have? Insurance. I believe that if we mandate, which I hate mandating insurance. Don't get it twisted. I hate the whole idea of mandating anything without giving the person a choice. I think it's bad business. But once again, we're talking about the restoration of gun rights for convicted felons. Or I believe that this format can work across the board. But just like a car, just like a car, you have to have insurance. I believe that we should have insurance on guns or tailored to people with felony convictions in the ownership of guns. I'm trying to make this shit right. I'm trying to give an opportunity. So we got to think of some ideas to throw out there. You may not agree with them, but I believe that they can work so that we can live in a society to where people are not losing their Second Amendment rights and then getting in trouble and being prosecuted, man, very harshly for simple possession. So once again, I'm a solutionist. I don't want to just talk about the problem. I want to provide a solution to the problem so that we can move forward as a society as a whole. So like I said, yes, if you're a former felon, a formerly incarcerated individual, and if you want to own a gun, then you have to pay insurance. You have to have insurance on your gun. Now, in the process of that also too, maybe I should have added this a little earlier. And then I know it's not the end. I wouldn't want it as the end. But you have to have training, firearm instructions. I think that and that's something that I believe that if you want the license, you have to get that before the license, okay? Just like in order to drive a car, you got to go to driver's training. I believe also too that when it comes to having a firearm, you have to go through firearm training, basic training. And there are a lot of organizations out there today that actually will train you in the art of firearms. For example, shout out to Maj Toure. He has a gun organization called Black Guns Matter. And I've seen on his YouTube and also on his Instagram is that he does give basic firearm instructions. How to hold it. What's the right one to fit in your hand depending on what body type that you have. I mean, he's very, very thorough when it comes to firearm instructions. So if you're a formerly convicted individual, I would believe first, in order to obtain the license, you have to get a certificate or certification in firearm instructions. Once you complete that course, then you can apply for your firearm license. And then so on and so on. Then we go after that. But I believe that that's a critical, or it's just as important as the license in itself. You got to know how to use a firearm. You got to know when to use a firearm and also the importance of firearms. And there's a lot of accredited organizations out here that we can use to actually help people train in the ideal of firearm possession. So let's start from the top. I'm going to run it all back because I kind of went a little bit of airware with it. But number one, once again, I'm comparing this to the whole idea of driving a car. Once again, I can hear y'all now. Oh my God, this sounds stupid. This isn't. And shut the fuck up, okay? Shut the fuck up. You ain't coming up with no solution. You ain't trying to make society better than other complying with the government when the people are bigger than the government. Fuck the government. Right? Especially when it comes to trampling on our rights. So let's start from the top. And once again, I'm not going to keep giving the parallel difference. I just need you to use your brain, envision what I'm talking about. Ideally, tap in with your boy. Don't be stupid. Get the point so that we can have the conversation. Once again, I accept dissented opinions. But what I'm not going to accept is y'all not providing any kind of solutions and then want to talk shit to me, okay? So, boom. And once again, this is all for, I would like it to apply to everybody, but because we have a lot of people in America who isn't in the class of felons and who really shouldn't be associated with that whole idea, we'll separate it, okay? You ain't getting in trouble. You have never gotten in trouble in America. Boom, you can go out there and purchase a firearm, no problem. You can possess it, no problem. But if you're a convicted felon, first thing you have to do, you have to take a firearm instructions class. Once that is completed, you can take that to your local, I don't know these parts, I ain't thought that far, but I'm just going to throw a hypothetical situation out there. You can take it to your local ATF or your local FBI and apply for a gun permit and a gun license. Once that application is approved, you can go purchase a firearm, like I say, either from a pawn shop, because, boom, you have to provide the license or the permit from a pawn shop, gun store, gun show. Once you purchase the firearm based on the documentation that you already have, boom, you go register it. Well, first, let me take it back, just like a car. You get insurance. You get insurance for your firearm, whether it's stolen, in case it's stolen, or if you're in a situation to where you use your firearm and it requires you to, just like a car accident, you get into a car accident, you hit somebody, you got to use your insurance to pay, same difference. And I believe that people with firearms won't be coming out of pocket as much as people with car accidents, okay? Nobody just killing randomly like that. Don't get it twisted, they are. But they're not killing like that to that extent to where two people can look at each other and be like, okay, who gonna pay for this shit? Not me or you. So that would be one of the purposes of insurance. All right? You may have to pay some restitution for using that firearm. Ain't necessarily saying you killing somebody. But if you get into a confrontation or whatever, it accidentally go off and hit somebody's car or whatever, we know what insurance is for. All right? So in the world of felons with guns, boom, you got to get insurance for your firearm, okay? Once you get the insurance from the firearm, because that's the only way that you will be able to leave out of a gun store or leave a gun show or a pawn shop upon purchase of a firearm, you have to already have your insurance, okay? Well, you get your insurance, take it to your local ATF, register your serial number with your local ATF, and boom, there you go. Also, too, I would add, just to calm fears here in America, is that you have to recertify. I don't know how long yet. I'll allow society to come up with that answer, but I'm just going to say this here. I'm going to say 2 to 4 years. Every 2 to 4 years, you have to go back and take another recertification firearm instructions class, and you also have to renew your permit or your license every 2 to 4 years. You have to renew your driver's license after every so years. Then you have to renew that. In my brain, in my thinking, in my calculations, this is how America can keep track of people with firearms, right? Especially former felons. And I believe that people like myself with a felony conviction will go through this particular process in order to have a firearm. Yeah. And this will be what it be. Now, I will throw out there also, too, boom, if you ever get in trouble again, you permanently lose your rights. Not just first strike, second strike. You're done. Because for one, you get a second chance of actually doing this again. So, boom, you only get one chance of doing it, redoing it. You don't get 2-3 more times to keep doing this. So, boom, you lose your license upon a second felony conviction, whether you do time on it or not. Found guilty of a felony, you permanently lose your rights. Now, here we go now to the punitive phase of firearm possession among felons. Now, I don't believe in the felon in possession of a firearm charge. I think that is a very, very unconstitutional charge because it is blanketed restrictions on people regardless of what they got the felony conviction for. It could be mail fraud. It could be something that doesn't have a violent connotation attached to it. It could be nonviolent. You shouldn't lose your rights for life. So the felon in possession of a firearm charge should only be, a person should only be charged with that if there's a crime connected to it. Anything outside of a crime being connected to a firearm should be simply either unlawful possession of a firearm or stolen firearms. Okay? Once again, take away any crime attached to it. We're talking about simply possession. Because a lot of people here in America go to prison, back to prison, for simple possession. Not a crime attached to it, but just simply simple possession, and that's wrong. Because firearms are legal. It ain't like crack or heroin. We know that's illegal across the board. You get caught with that, you're just in trouble. But there should not be a penalty stiffer for people who get caught with a firearm than though with a felony conviction than those who don't. So once again, minus any type of violence or crime connected to the firearm, the only penalties should be either unlawful possession of a firearm, you didn't have a right to have it, meaning it was somebody else's and it was stolen. Or unlawful possession of a firearm, it may not be stolen, but if you're a felon and you don't have your right credentials, such as your gun license, you didn't go through the proper training, the firearms training, that kind of stuff that I just mentioned earlier, boom, you're in trouble. I'll let society come up with the time for that. But once again, simple possession shouldn't be a crime. And if it is, stolen or unlawful possession of a firearm. Now, if there's a crime connected to it, and it is what it is. It's a free fall. Let society do what they do. Hit them with the hardest penalties of the law. Boom. End of discussion. You can't represent people that commit crimes in a favorable light, especially when it comes to the Second Amendment. Once again, I need y'all to think. I need y'all to listen clearly of what I'm saying. I'm separating simple possession of a firearm and that a firearm is connected with a crime. I'm separating the two. Please make sure that y'all can hear the distinction on what I'm saying. Because y'all like to just merge everything into one big gumbo as if there's no context to nothing that we've been talking about. So like I said, I'm separating possession, simple possession, than that with a crime. If you're a former felon or formerly incarcerated person, you're caught with a gun in connection with a crime, now you have felon in possession of a firearm. The time is the time. But we have to find a way to stop persecuting and criminalizing people for simple possession. My phone in my hand is just having a phone in my hand. Now, if I smack somebody upside the head with it, now it becomes a weapon. Right? But until then, if I'm on here committing fraud, then it's part of a crime. But if it's not connected to a crime, it's just simply a phone. And we got to stop making simple possession, like I said, a crime. So, I hope y'all have been informed. And I hope that y'all can take this conversation and we can spread it across America and really begin to have deep ideas thrown back and forth regarding felon in possession of a firearm. In what ways can we make society better? Because once again, like I said, we're not getting rid of guns. Nobody in the country will agree, especially those who are pro 2A like myself, on just getting rid of every gun that we have in America. That's not going to happen. We can get rid of that whole idea. The country was founded on guns, and guns is just as American as apple pie, rock and roll, and rap music, okay? And black people. I'm talking about the nigger, not the African. No. There's nothing more American than the nigger, okay? So, let's have broad conversations, good conversations, smart conversations around the Second Amendment. And that is my ideal on how we can fix the problem. Before I close out this podcast, I probably would have done it on Correct the Felon podcast. Make sure y'all tap in for that. Subscribe, like, comment, because that's where we have different conversations regarding social ideas and social norms of our country. But shout out to the GWOAT, man. The GWOAT kicked ass this past weekend. 19-0 or something like that. She undefeated. So shout out to GWOAT, Clarissa Shields, the homegirl from Flint, Michigan. Steady out there kicking ass and taking names. So big win for her. Stayed up too late watching that shit. I ain't recovered yet. But shout out to Clarissa Shields. And once again, man, thank y'all for tapping in and time out with your boy. Bring the conversation. Bring the right conversation, though. Don't be assholes. Don't be stupid. Don't be calling me out my name just because you disagree. Just disagree and give your objection. I'm cool with that. But until next time, it's your boy, Inspiretheblocc. Y'all be safe out there, and I pray that everybody out there in listening and viewing land have a blessed day on purpose.